Dear students, today I would like to take a class on Preface to Shakespeare for the students of Honours Part 3 of English Literature. Preface to Shakespeare is actually a piece of criticism, and this criticism was written by Dr. Samuel Johnson during the neoclassical period, that is during the 18th century. Preface to Shakespeare was published in 1765, nearly 250 years ago. And Preface to Shakespeare is believed to be the first comprehensive criticism on Shakespeare. Dr. Samuel Johnson had attempted to make a criticism on the writings of William Shakespeare. And here Dr. Samuel Johnson had truly criticized the writings of Shakespeare in a very methodical way. Dr. Samuel Johnson had attempted to talk about the merits of Shakespeare, had attempted to talk about the faults of Shakespeare. He had also focused on the violation of the unities, that is the three unities, classical unities by William Shakespeare. He had also given his opinion about the mingling of tragic and comic elements in the same drama. At the very outset of this criticism, Dr. Samuel Johnson had opined that as William Shakespeare had passed away long ago and his writings were still very much popular, very much acceptable to the readers, though nearly 200 years had gone, and therefore it is proved that Shakespeare could win the test of time. A writer will be judged to be very much effective after winning the test of time. And Shakespeare could win the test of time according to Dr. Samuel Johnson. And Dr. Samuel Johnson had also talked about the merits of Shakespeare. And the most important merit of Shakespeare is that Shakespeare was the poet of nature. He was the poet of nature. It means that he was the poet of life. Drama is considered to be the just representation of life, and in that sense, Shakespeare could successfully represent life in his drama. And Shakespeare had tried to create or represent those characters which are or who are very much true to life. The characters created or delineated by Shakespeare are actually very much representative of life. His characters are taken from real life, not from imagination. And the dialogues that Shakespeare had incorporated in the characters are actually very much lively, very much realistic, very much copying to life. And Shakespeare had also tried his level best to individualize the characters. And all the characters of Shakespeare are very much distinctive and very much, realistic. And Shakespeare had also represented multidimensional characters. And no character is similar to another character. And that is the variety of life. In real life, we find a huge number of characters not similar to one another. in the same way, Shakespeare had also innovated a huge number of characters not similar to one another. That is actually the greatness of Shakespeare, according to Dr. Samuel Johnson. And Shakespeare had not overemphasized on love. In many of the contemporary dramas during the Shakespearean time, the dramatist focused on the theme of love in their drama. But actually in real life, love is only one element or one emotion of many emotions of life. But if we find only love to be overemphasized, then actually that drama cannot be considered to be very much realistic. And that is why Shakespeare had not overemphasized the theme of love in his drama. And that is also the another greatness of Shakespeare. So in this way, Shakespeare could satisfy the audiences for a long time. And as Shakespeare could satisfy huge number of readers for a long time, it is proof that Shakespeare is actually a great dramatist. And after discussing the merits of Shakespeare, Dr. Samuel Johnson had also focused on the faults of Shakespeare according to his opinion. The first fault that he had analyzed is that Shakespeare sacrifices virtue to convenience. Shakespeare had written the drama without any moral purpose. And actually, the fault that had been focused by Dr. Samuel Johnson is his own observation. If we think about this thing, then we will find that Shakespeare actually establishes the poetic justice in his drama. And as the poetic justice is maintained, and therefore we cannot justify the opinion of Dr. Samuel Johnson that Shakespeare had not taken any moral purpose in his drama. Along with that, Dr. Samuel Johnson had also told that Shakespeare had the defective plot construction. The plot construction in the drama is in many cases not up to the mark, is very much defective. And Shakespeare had neglected the latter part of his drama. Shakespeare in many tragedies and comedies were not successful. He had used sarcasm in the drama which are not very much satisfactory, and he had also the quibbles of language in his drama. And in many cases, some of the words used by Shakespeare are not very much understandable to the audiences. So these are the faults according to Dr. Samuel Johnson, though many critics are not of the same opinion with Dr. Samuel Johnson to consider these things to be the faults of actually Shakespeare. And Dr. Samuel Johnson believed that the comedies of Shakespeare are more satisfactory than the tragedies of Shakespeare. But many other critics believe that Shakespeare was very much successful in the composition or in the writings of tragedies. Particularly his 4 tragedies are considered to be very much extraordinary: Hamlet, Macbeth, Othello, and King Lear. Dr. Samuel Johnson had also analyzed the mingling of the tragic and comic elements of Shakespeare in the same drama. The classical writers were not in the practice of mingling tragic and comic elements in the same drama, but Shakespeare had done so. And Dr. Samuel Johnson justified the mingling of the tragic and comic elements. Dr. Samuel Johnson believed that life is the sum total of joy and sorrow. As life is the sum total of joy and sorrow, so in the drama there should be the representation of both the tragic and comic elements in the same drama. And whenever both the tragic and comic elements will be represented in the same drama, that drama will be actually the representation of life, because life is full of joy and sorrow. No life will be found in which there will be only joy. No life will be found in which there will be only sorrow. There will be the sorrow and joy by rotation in the life of a person. And so whenever a dramatist had attempted to focus on both the joy and the sorrow by mingling these things in the same drama, it means that this is the representation of life. And about three unities, that is the unity of time, unity of place, and unity of action. The classical writers followed these three unities in their drama, but Shakespeare had not followed the unity of time and unity of place in his drama, but he had followed the unity of action, because in Shakespearean drama there is only one plot. Subplot is there, but that subplot is very much interconnected with the main plot. But Shakespeare knew very well about the three unities, but he had not attempted to maintain unity of time and unity of place in his drama. And Dr. Samuel Johnson justified that there is no necessity that always a dramatist will follow the previous rules. A dramatist may be very much creative. He may create something new. And if the new things that will be created by the dramatist can satisfy the audiences, then that innovation can be justified. So unity of time means the drama should be on the 24 hours. Drama should deal with the actions or the stories of 24 hours. But Shakespeare had not done so. But Shakespeare successfully presented many stories related to the person without following unity of time. And as he could successfully do so, and therefore there is no necessity of following unity of time. And Shakespeare could also violate the unity of place in a very satisfactory way. Unity of place means the action or the stories of the drama should be only in a single place. But Shakespeare could successfully fluctuate the stories from one place to another, and he could make it believable to the audiences. The audiences, as he was very much successful to make it believable to the audience, and therefore we should consider Shakespeare to be great in representing these things by violating the unity of time and unity of place. And Dr. Samuel Johnson believed that Shakespeare was very much, successful in doing so. Dr. Samuel Johnson told that Shakespeare, in the field of literary creation, was actually a forest, though other writers may be considered to be garden. But forest is more significant than garden. Garden may be considered to be, very much, well planned, well shaped. In spite of that, no garden can be comparable to the forest created by Almighty. And in that sense, the Shakespeare was much greater than other writers. Though the other writers may follow many things very much, methodically, but Shakespeare may not follow many things methodically, but in the field of innovation, Shakespeare could show his extraordinary genius that is still unsurpassable. So I think these are the things that have been focused by Dr. Samuel Johnson in Preface to Shakespeare. So these are the key points. And if you focus on the key points, then it will be possible for you to understand the main things reflected in Preface to Shakespeare. Thanks to all of you for your patient hearing.